with Jon Impemba and James Grande.
What's going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook Show. It is Wednesday. We have 8 games on tonight's main slate over on DraftKings and FanDuel. Appreciate you all tuning in with us here today. Justin already in the chat saying, let's get it tonight. Love that. Love seeing you in here early, Justin. Those of you who want to tune in here, throw your questions in the chat, throw your comments. James and I here for the next hour plus. Get you ready for tonight's DFS main slate that starts 7 p.m. Eastern time, kicks off with the Minnesota Timberwolves against the Detroit Pistons. Des in the chat. What's up, Des? Happy to have you with us here today as well. It goes all the way to the 8:30 late night hammer tonight. Dallas Lakers. Luka Doncic still questionable to play today. So big news there on the injury front that we are waiting. And of course, no game tonight between the Golden State Warriors and the Utah Jazz this morning. James and I were talking a lot about that game. Unfortunately, the tragic passing of the assistant coach of the Golden State Warriors has postponed that game. Obviously, our thoughts are with the Golden State Warriors and their family with the news that happened there. But James, how are we doing today, man?
Doing good. I mean, obviously, busy day in the NBA overall. Obviously, with the tragic passing, as you mentioned, was the start of it. Pascal Siakam is traded afterwards. And we do have the Toronto Raptors on today's slate. So, only Siakam moving on from the Toronto Raptors in that deal. But it is obviously noteworthy now that 2 members of their former starting 5, and I don't know if you saw the picture hovering around today, that entire championship team now is gone. It's everyone is gone from that team. Not that Masai Ujiri hasn't done bad on return, other than the Van Vliet stuff, but right. Siakam is now an Indiana Pacer, and eventually Bruce Brown will make his way to Toronto. We don't know if Bruce Brown's even going to play in Toronto. Right. It seems like there's reports that Bruce Brown's just going to be traded right away, or part of a buyout market. There's going to be something happening with Bruce Brown. I doubt he ever plays in Toronto, or if he does, it's
limited,
a game, a 2, So it's been a busy day in the NBA. There's still a lot of injury news. Siakam was traded. Josh Green was out.
Yeah.
That's the only and Bojan was ruled in. That's the only real significant news that has taken place. Fortunately for us, we'll get the Anthony Edwards news nice and early. I was just looking at some scheduling stuff. This is the front leg of a back-to-back for Minnesota. So could they potentially sit Edwards flying from Detroit back home to Minnesota to play Memphis tomorrow? You always talk about it more noteworthy game tomorrow on TNT against a conference opponent in Memphis. Right. Not that either team is very good, but in Detroit and Memphis, but still matters more to play your conference and a nationally televised game. So there's obviously that. Luka seems like he's trending towards playing, but we don't know that. He's missed the last few games. Jalen Brunson's questionable. We haven't really gotten a lot of news. So none of we don't know anything about Boston still. They're all listed questionable. So a lot of news, hopefully, to break on this slate. Despite not a lot of injury news happening, there has been a lot going on around the association today. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, when it comes to game matchups here tonight, Minnesota-Detroit, that game's up to a 12-point spread, open at 11.5. Detroit, a 12-point home dog here. Orlando-Atlanta, that game's got a 229 total that opened at 233. So bettors going on the under in that one. Atlanta now a 4-point home favorite. San Antonio-Boston, Boston's up to a 16-point home favorite. They were opened at 15.5. That total's up to 238.5 there as well. Of course, Wemby, as we know, at least as of today, is still on a minutes limit. We'll see if that ever gets limited, if Pop ever tells us that limit is removed. Milwaukee, Cleveland's one of the marquee matchups tonight. Cleveland is a 4-point home underdog, a 236.5 game total in that one. Houston, New York giving 6.5, 221 total against Houston. Miami, Toronto now getting 3.5. Does it surprise you at all that Siakam gets traded and that line only moves 2 points? Like, that feels a little, I don't know. I feel like you lose one of your best players, that line would have moved a bit more, but Toronto now just getting 3.5 at home, a 226 total there against Miami. Charlotte, New Orleans. New Orleans is giving 11.5 and a 229.5 game total there against the Hornets. And then Dallas, LA, as we mentioned, our last game on this slate. Lakers are giving 4. That total's up to 243.5.
Yeah, so the Miami front, Toronto is a little interesting. Miami's been a pretty good road team, 12-9 this year. Winners of 3 straight. Obviously got the country star Jimmy Butler back last game. So yeah, I mean, definitely a little interesting. That's just, home cooking support for on the Toronto side of things. It is like a decent matchup. We know Miami hasn't been the best defensive team this year. They've definitely been better lately. On the Wemby front, John, I found out that he, before being elevated to like more minutes, needs to be cleared by a doctor, like a specialist. When that happens, who knows? But there is a specialist that is going to look at Wembanyama and say, you know what? You're good to play 29 minutes tonight.
Sure.
Like, so whatever that means, that's what we're waiting for on the Wemby front. And obviously, Milwaukee, Cleveland is my favorite, my personal preference tonight. Dallas, LA should be a really fun basketball game and 240 total in that. But like, Luka being there obviously muddies things up a little bit. If he's out, I mean, Josh Green's also out. There could be a lot of interesting parts. That's unfortunately an 8:30 game. Orlando, Atlanta is very interesting because you and I talked about it, how great of a spot it is for Orlando. Jamal Mosley, head coach of the Orlando Magic, has come out and said that there's likely going to be fluidity to the starting lineup moving forward. What that means, who knows?
Well,
but
if you're looking at our ownership today,
I mean, I don't think it's either of those guys.
Okay.
Because that was the first thing I saw, and I tweeted about it. Like, I mean, we collectively both mentioned these guys on the pod last night.
Yes.
Like, but it was more like in passing. Hey,
like
here they are playing.
Minutes were there, but
yeah.
There's no bigger Jonathan Isaac fans in the world.
No.
If we get a starting lineup tonight, all of a sudden John Isaac is starting at the 4 and Paolo Banchero is at the 3 or something. Like, look out,
dude. Look, like, I don't know what the fluidity means. Like, I think the obvious things that you can look at are the center spot, right? When like Wendell Carter eventually overtakes Chuma is starting right now, so. I mean, Markelle Fultz isn't. There's I think clear pieces, but those aren't the guys getting the ownership. So it's definitely interesting to see Atlanta drop and also see their ownership today after hearing Jamal Mosley's comments of basically saying like, "Yep, we don't really." It's Paolo and crew every night because if you remember over the weekend, or it was on Monday, Anthony Black was listed the starter. Then he didn't start. Chuma Okeke did, and then Anthony Black didn't even play. So really weird stuff going on in Orlando right now. Total aside, but I do think that is some noteworthy news as
well. Let's get into our position by position breakdown again. If you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them in chat. Love and Steven Prime 8 in here. Wemby's gonna need the minutes against that beast Horford. Yeah, don't trying to derail us again with the Al Horford talk.
He always did.
We'll get to the Boston in a second here because again we still don't have the news. Faisal, what's going on, man? Happy to have you in the chat with us today as well. Point guard position, we do have Luka Doncic. Here's your 10-9 guy. In terms of overall pricing, he's your second highest price play on the slate, $100 under Giannis over on DraftKings this evening. If Luka plays, we've talked about this with Kyrie Irving, the way he had been going, he wasn't really paying off the high 11s, 12 price tag. Is now 10-9. It becomes a bit more bearable, but I still find myself wanting to play Kyrie Irving because even when Luka was playing, we were getting 50s and 60s out of Kyrie. So if you had to pick a guy to pay for that's going to give you 50 to 55 to 50 to 60 fantasy point range tonight, take Kyrie Irving for $9,300 than Luka at 10-9 today.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't think anyone has a problem getting to Luka or being like, wow, Luka doesn't have a ceiling with Kyrie. Like he does, but it is obviously harder to get to a guy who's 10-9. And the point guard position in general below is pretty good.
Yeah.
Like Trey is coming off a ceiling game, and we know he has had multiple 70 fantasy point games. I think Donovan Mitchell's one of the better plays.
Covered the playbook today.
One of the better plays of the slate overall.
We got the let him know tweet already, so
got the let him. I mean, got the let him know tweet. So I mean, like, sure, if you want to get to Luka, Jazz, what's up? Welcome. Like, if you want to get to Luka, that's fine as long as he suits up. There typically hasn't been any type of restriction on Luka either. Like, if he returns, it's been a week, he'll play 37 plus minutes like he normally does. So you don't have to worry about that. It's just it's really a price point thing more than anything, because the Lakers also have been bad defensively, and they're not getting any better implementing D'Angelo Russell back into the lineup, playing 36 plus minutes a night. So
yeah.
I'm fine getting to Luka, but I just prefer the next tier of players anyway.
Yeah. Again, no arguments here. If you want to spend it for Luka, that's fine. I found myself going Mitchell Irving in some early builds, even playing both of them. The value is obviously one of the reasons why our ownership projections have the Orlando guys that they do as highly as there is, because there isn't really a lot of value on tonight's slate that you're finding. Now, if guys get ruled out one way or the other, that's obviously going to go ahead and create more value, or you're going to be playing some like blowout narrative stuff here. Like if Anthony Edwards was to get ruled out tonight, well, then, that's going to open up maybe like, NAW or Jordan McLaughlin or whomever, right? Like as a possible value play. Jalen Brunson, we know Miles McBride isn't as cheap as he's been, but he's, $5,600 or $5,300 on DraftKings there, right? So, there's certainly some value that could open up if these guys end up getting ruled out. If both guards end up being ruled out for Boston, you'll have Peyton Pritchard. Could see Sam Hauser enter the starting lineup tonight. I know we hate that, but could very well be the situation that occurs. So there could be some value that pops on over there as well. One of the point guards, we move our way down to the mid-tier range here. Do you have any interest in a LaMelo Ball, Dame Lillard? Where does Scotty Barnes now rank for you at Al Pascal, Siakam here? Like, what's your go-to here?
So I definitely like the LaMelo Ball price. I definitely like the LaMelo Ball minutes. 27 after a month plus absence. It was just a blowout. 30. The second game, another blowout. The minutes are going to trend upwards on LaMelo Ball. He's contrarian for sure. And 9,100 is the cheapest we're going to see him probably all year, right? If he's healthy and playing big minutes, we are not going to see LaMelo Ball at this price point again. Right. So I'd be fine getting them in tournaments. Lillard is interesting coming off that game winner. The shots are starting to fall, 27 and 29 points the last two games. 8,600 is too cheap for Damian Lillard in this offense. I mean, they're the second best offense in the NBA this year.
Yeah.
So, the Scotty Barnes thing is interesting because I think long-term, obviously this trade is fantastic for him, right? It puts him more on the ball. This is now his team. We've already seen Darko during his rant call Scotty Barnes the face of the NBA, which, no one other than Darko believes right now, but that is the face of his team now with Siakam, OG, Van Vliet, these guys gone. I just don't know if I love this spot tonight. I like Toronto. I like the other pieces more. I don't like that Scotty Barnes tonight is 100% going to play defense on Jimmy Butler for the entire night. Right. And then have to play offense at a extremely high level. I've gotten mostly to Dennis Schroeder tonight at $5,400, point guard, shooting guard. He's going to play big minutes every time there's somebody out, or we've seen this with Jakob Poeltl out. His minutes really haven't dropped off at all. And now there's no Siakam. They don't really have the option to go that small ball 5 route. They can just plug Schroeder into the starting lineup. I'd assume that's the direction they'd go. So like I'm fine getting to Scotty Barnes. It's just not necessarily something that I've prioritized. Like at that tier, guys like Paolo or Alperen Şengün, I value more than Scotty Barnes, and like the matchups they're in and the per dollar,
Sure.
like that would be the play I would like, the plays I'd rather play than Barnes at 84. So I'm fine with it, but it's just not a priority for me at this
Sure. All right. What's your next point guard then? Where we go as we work our way down the list?
I mean, Brunson's fine getting Houston on the road if he plays, because we
Sure.
know Houston just can't win games and they're not the same team away from home. Obviously, the Ant Edwards price is ridiculous. That was like one of the first things you and I pointed out on the show this morning.
Yeah.
It's all about if he plays, one, on the front leg of a back-to-back, two, if they're competitive, right? Like, this is a bad Detroit team that has been playing better and gets Bojan back. Will they keep it competitive with the number one ranked team in the West? TBD. But Edwards is flat out too cheap if that game stays close. And then it's just like a kind of a drop off. I think quickly at 7K is a guy I would get to. I do like the numbers. Sand, Siakam, and Pirtle, and obviously OG doesn't factor into this equation, but for the sake of it, I mean, 1.27 fantasy points per minute for Emmanuel Quickly, 26% usage rate. Really good numbers on both those fronts. It just sometimes gets in foul trouble, but good matchup for guards against Miami. And then the only other name I'd mention, I don't know if you have anyone else, but I like D'Angelo Russell a little bit in this tier, 6K.
Listen, ever since he re-found his role, right? 41 and 36 minutes. It's always been just about minutes for D'Angelo Russell here,
Agreed.
as it is for most players in the NBA. If you're going to give a guy 30 plus minutes, he's going to be on our radar most nights, especially a guy that has the offensive capabilities of a D'Angelo Russell here. So certainly fine in the 6K range going with him. After that, it was sort of the value plays for me. Schroeder at 55. If Brunson was out, McBride worked for sure. Gary Trent could be interesting tonight if if he's over this illness here. He's 43, and then Peyton Pritchard's 4K. Kind of the guard room for me.
Dude, if Trent sits, there might just be 40 minutes for every Toronto starter tonight, right? Mm-hmm. Just because, and if Trent plays, he might play 30 off the bench because he might just fill in 1 through 3 for them, just based on their depth now, and kind of like unwillingness to extend Boucher, and like they didn't even play centers last game. So
on cue, Adam's in here asking Boucher or Young tonight. I mean, listen, I put it on Twitter this morning. They still won't play Chris Boucher even after the Pascal Siakam trade. I mean, we've gone through this before. We're like, no Pirtle, they have to play Boucher. Okay, Boucher wasn't a clear backup for Pirtle. That makes sense. They went a different direction. Boucher is at least the backup to Pascal Siakam, right? Right?
I think there might be someone else.
I mean, listen, I hope they play Jalen McDaniels more.
That's who I think.
But, because Jalen McDaniels was a baller last year.
Yeah, he was.
And wherever he's gone, he's been really good. And then he gets to Toronto, and they just park him on the bench and don't play him. Adam, if neither start, I think I go Boucher over Thad, because I think there's a real chance that Thad, just wouldn't play. Like, they started Jonte Porter the other day, right? So, I would go Boucher over Thad if I had to pick one, but very risky plays for both here. So,
yeah, I think my guess at starting lineup is, which I don't think it's like a hot take, but it's Schroeder, Quickly, Barrett, Barnes, Jonte Porter. That would be my guess at starting 5. But I think the center spot is obviously the most fluid part, right? Because we've seen Thad start, we've seen Jonte Porter start, and Jonte Porter was good in the 15 minutes against Boston, and then got in foul trouble, and then never came back in the game. So it's unfortunate, and the center spot kind of just sucks in general because the matchup in this spot, they're facing one of the best, if not the best defensive centers.
This is a plus matchup for Bam Prime,
yes, for sure.
Not the other way around. Bam is one of the best centers in the NBA in terms of points allowed against. So, I don't think this is a great matchup, honestly, but if for value minutes, we like Chris Boucher because he's a fantasy point per minute monster. The problem is he's so bad, I guess, defensively or
Dude, he's a mess.
basketball IQ wise, that like he just gets on the floor. The coaches see him, rollerblading out there, and then they take him off the floor. So I don't really know. Like James says, whoever starts plus, plus the matchup against Bam. Right. The was missing, and I was like, it's not plus matchup against Bam. Yeah,
no,
the matchup against Bam is pretty tough. Exactly.
Critical reading for sure.
Critical.
That's my problem. That's my issue too.
The key is part of that entire sentence there.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't play centers against Bam is the way to go there for sure.
Correct.
All right, shooting guard position. We'll talk about Bam. I like Bam a lot here tonight, given the situation that's going on there. You talked about Donovan Mitchell, Kyrie Irving, Edwards already. Brandon Ingram is 82. Jaylen Brown has been on another one, as we've talked about lately. Great price point, really, for Brown, given his current run. And if White and Holiday are out, like you might just see 30-plus minutes out of Jaylen Brown tonight anyways in that game. Hero gets a bit of a downgrade with buckets back for me. Yep. DeJounte is there. Middleton, like what's your mid-tier shooting guard looking like?
I don't have much in this tier that I love. Okay. Like obviously I do think like my priority tonight, I'm prioritizing Donovan Mitchell. So like if I'm not playing him at point guard, I've mostly slotted him in my shooting guard spot. Kyrie as well. Ingram really bad game last time out. Zion's been really good eating into Ingram. Brown's been great, but will that game stay competitive? Hero was great with Butler, but obviously like overtime aided. And there's just not always going to be 29 and 11 rebounds.
Well, that's what I look at. I feel like there's some regression. The points can be there. We've seen the points there earlier this year. I just worry about the secondary stats and the fact that we talked about him. Him and Butler had huge games in the game where they only scored 96 total points.
And Bam had 20 rebounds.
Yeah. So, maybe, but I don't know. For me, I'm gonna wait and see on Hero in this matchup against Toronto tonight, personally. We talked Ivy here already. RJ Barrett, you've discussed at 66. I think we're both in on RJ Barrett here tonight.
Yeah, Barrett's basically the guy that I have gravitated to outside of Mitchell at this, like anywhere in between, really. Dude, he's just been really good for Toronto outside of everybody's worst nightmare going to Utah right now. Like Utah's a really tough place to play. They got shellacked. Move on. Chalk it up as an L. Look at every other game he's played in for Toronto. With Siakam off the floor this year, John, it's a small sample, just 90 minutes. But he is the number one rated offensive player. He has a team-leading 27% usage rate, and he averages 1.2 fantasy points per minute. And he's 6,600. He's cheaper than Quickly. He's cheaper than Scotty Barnes. He also has shooting guard, small forward eligibility, which we love. Like, there's obviously a case that he gets hot. Jimmy Butler switches on to him, right? And like that's obviously a worry.
Yeah.
But there's also sometimes Miami goes zone a lot, and RJ Barrett has been shooting the three ball a little bit better, and also he is a good slasher, which is another way to attack a zone. So like, I really like kind of everything that's coming together for RJ Barrett. He's going to play he's going to play 40 minutes, and we've seen the increase in rebounds. That's not going to change with Siakam off the floor, right? So, nothing really stopping me from getting to RJ Barrett in the mid tier. He's been one of my favorite targets here.
Yeah, for me, Barrett, I liked Reeves as well at $6,500. THJ has been unconscious. If Luka Doncic is ruled out, I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to be on a lot of lineups here this evening. Karis LeVert we like. We got to see him in the lineup here. Obviously, he was seen at the morning shoot around. He's been really good, $6,400 here. So, a good 6K range at the shooting guard / small forward eligibility for Barrett, Hardaway, LeVert here.
It is noteworthy, though. They saw LeVert at shoot around, heavily taped wrist, and he was doing light work. So, like, we saw, what was it? Didn't we see Jaylen Brown at shoot around 2 weeks ago, and then he got ruled out? Or it was someone, I forget what who it was, but we saw someone at shoot around, but they then there was an updated note Oh, but he didn't participate, or he just did something, he just
He was
stood on the
shooting left
side.
hand layup. Yeah, exactly.
He was doing the Jokic layup line,
Yeah.
just doing crazy stuff. So that is definitely noteworthy because you brought up Sam Merrill on the show last night.
Yeah.
That would obviously be a beneficiary. So would Max Strus right here at 6,100. He would obviously be a beneficiary of.
Merrill being 46, Strus being $6,100 there. So we talked Jalen Green on the show this morning. He is popping in ownership.
Yep.
The minutes, Dylan Brooks is back. One of the biggest reasons we liked Jalen Green for the past 2 weeks was the usage rate increase he saw with Dylan Brooks off the floor. Well, now Dylan Brooks is back, but also Cam Whitmore's playing, and Cam Whitmore's out there shooting. Now, he took 16 shots. Great to see. Played 27 minutes. Fine. You would like to see him playing over 30 like he kind of was. On the road against the Knicks doesn't feel like a great spot. I don't know. I'm not with the field here on Jalen Green tonight.
So the minutes in the Philly game were blowout-ated because that was not a 9-point game. That was Philly letting up the gas.
And it was over,
yeah. Embiid played 3 quarters. They had to put Maxey back in the game because Houston cut it to obviously what it was, but it was a 20-point game throughout. So I'm with you. I'm also man, this is not a correct price point for Jalen Green. At the end of the day, he is $6K plus, especially when he's scoring well, and he has been scoring the basketball well. But you're right, they're pretty much healthy sans Tari Eason. They're a bad road team, likely matched up with DiVincenzo if he gets going. Obviously, there's the OG matchup looming as well. So I'm okay with Jalen Green. I think the really intriguing part in this tier is DiVincenzo.
I was gonna say I actually like DiVincenzo a lot.
Dude, there's 2 major question marks with the Knicks tonight. 1, Jalen Brunson. 2, Josh Hart popped on the injury report. If DiVincenzo's main reason why he doesn't play minutes is because Tibbs likes going to Josh Hart off the bench, and then DiVincenzo is just hey guys, I'm shooting 45% from 3 and I space better than anyone on the team. How about me? Right. And then it doesn't matter because Tibbs does what he does, right? He's gonna play the gritty Josh Hart.
We just saw a former Milwaukee Bucks swingman score 30 actual in a game. Maybe another former Milwaukee Bucks swingman can go out here and have a night tonight.
He also, former Milwaukee Bucks swingman, after the OG trade, did score 30. He scored 38 in that game.
We got the Celtics news. Derek White out. Drew Holiday will play. Kristaps Porzingis out. No White, no Porzingis tonight. Okay. Drew Holiday in.
All right, so let's just stop for a second. Talk Boston.
Giannis out.
Woo! Where did that come from?
Out of the clouds. Giannis is out tonight, everybody. Okay. All right. Okay.
So let's back up. Let's recalibrate here.
Game.
Let's recalibrate.
Dame.
John.
Yeah.
Do you see the watch? Wait,
yeah.
Wait. I got to watch.
There you go.
It's Dame time.
Crazy. Yeah.
It's Dame time. Look, that's obviously Slate altering news. This doesn't take me off Donovan Mitchell in the slightest bit.
No.
Because that's less rim protection for Milwaukee Bucks tonight.
We're about to get a former Western Conference preview playoff matchup thing here. Dame and Donnie Mitch just going back and forth. Taking buckets off one another.
So we're gonna pull up Milwaukee numbers. We're just gonna stop the show here. And we're gonna pull up Milwaukee numbers. Sans Giannis Antetokounmpo. They do get the return of Jay Crowder tonight. I don't think that's going to be very impactful because the minutes are obviously going to be.
It could shift Bobby Portis more to the 5, I guess, right? Jay Crowder back up 4, maybe?
I think Crowder floats between both 3 and 4. I mean, they've had a big question at the 3, right? They've been between Connaughton and Beauchamp and Andre Jackson, and it's very fluid. So you can definitely plug Crowder in at the 3 and the 4. Here's some numbers without Giannis this year, John. So Damian Lillard, no surprise, 1.5 fantasy points per minute this year. He's sub 9K. We saw it earlier in the year. He went for 70 fantasy points without Giannis. So it's a lock and load Dame slate for sure. Plus 9% usage rate bump. The leader in usage rate bumps, Chris Middleton, 11.9% usage bump for Chris Middleton, up to 36%, 1.26 fantasy points per minute. Yeah. Bobby Portis, 1.13. Brooke Lopez, 1.01. So there's a lot to like on the Milwaukee side. What do you think about Boston, though? Like, no Porzingis, no White, Holiday in. What do you think starting lineup looks like?
Hauser has to start because you'll have Horford at the 5, Tatum at the 4, Brown probably at the 2, and Hauser at the 3 with Jrue Holiday at the point guard position.
Do they go O'Shea Brissett possibly?
No, because their natural lineup isn't double big. It's Porzingis, Tatum, Brown, White.
Well, Brissett big is like 6. Jason Tatum is taller than
I'm just
O'Shea
saying.
Brissett.
So you think that they put Jason? Do you think they start O'Shea Brissett over Porzingis?
I don't know what they're gonna do because I think like
I feel like you've seen this before.
Well, they've started Banton. Well, they've started Banton before, right? When there's been guys ruled out. There's started the Celtics, dude. This is like the Celtics are crazy because we've seen Delano Banton start. We've seen Lamar Stevens start. We've seen Sam Hauser start. We've never seen Peyton Pritchard start. Peyton Pritchard just gonna come off the bench regardless. But
taking a look at the 3 games we've had, no Derek White. There's been 3 games, so no Derek White. There's been 3 games. That one was that they did double big in one of them, Horford and Porzingis. Other game also double big with Horford and Porzingis. Did they ever not have them both? Yeah, they didn't have Al Horford, and they played Hauser.
They started Hauser.
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards will play. So NAW.
Peyton Pritchard, by the way, in that game, 33 minutes off the bench. That was a competitive game. Again, that was a game they lost against the Hornets in the Tatum Monday in Charlotte game.
Okay.
That was no Al Horford, no Derek White. Peyton Pritchard played 33 minutes off the bench. O'Shea Brissett did play 18 minutes off the bench. Cornette played 18 minutes off the bench. But the starters played because it was actually a competitive game. Hauser played 37 minutes in that one starting.
What is your how do you rank Boston?
I mean, I still want Peyton Pritchard over Sam Hauser. Pritchard had 21 actual in that game. He was nutty. I mean, Jaylen Brown's been so good, man. No Derek White, no Porzingis, I think is huge.
The line
Jrue Holiday obviously coming off of the big game, but can we rely on the consistent big nights from Jrue Holiday? I don't think so. So I think I would go probably Brown, then Tatum 1-2.
I think per dollar Pritchard might be 1 for me.
Sure, I thought right. Okay, I thought you meant like for
just like because looking at the line did not move a single point. It is
well, it might take a minute to update, but
I'm just what is San Antonio competitive with the 2 Jays still like and
no, probably not. What did we have on the roster sheet this morning for Pritchard anyways? Because I thought he was going to be like sort of say 35%, 25%, something like that.
Peyton Pritchard this morning, it was the afternoon update he was 18%.
Okay. And we just got an update 3 minutes ago, but it doesn't have the Giannis news or the Celtics news. So we're going to have to get yet another update on that one. Pritchard was 16% on that. I have to imagine that changes given the news. So
2x to 3x, just given like that's just clear value. Like the value we had on the board was Orlando backups,
right? And we like Pritchard anyways, so not really like a huge change, but obviously I think he becomes more of a plug for us here. We also now are, like you said, we're giving more looks to the Milwaukee big, or core 2 here. Lillard's 86, Middleton's 76. So, maybe changes for Portis or Brook Lopez as well. Like, what are your thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dame is the priority, obvious. Number one, I think Middleton's two. But if you can't get to both, like Bobby Portis is 58. Like that's a really good price coming off two really massive games in his last three, 20-point double doubles in 2 of 3. So I definitely think Portis sees a boost, and the numbers back that up as well. Brook Lopez is over a fantasy point per minute. If you want to get there, he's always a contrarian option, right? So I'm trying to look up what we have because I remember Giannis sat a game earlier in the year, and we figured Portis would start, and he didn't. They started Andre Jackson in that game, but they gave Bobby Portis 30 minutes off the bench.
Yeah.
Just for context there. Now Jay Crowder was not available in that game. But I kind of and Middleton was limited to 20 minutes. So
I mean, Portis has been good, obviously, in these recent games, anyways.
Monsters.
Yeah, I think Dez is right. I think I'd probably go Portis, Dame, Middleton, Portis would be the three I'd look at for Milwaukee tonight.
Here's a question for you.
Sure.
Since we just got the news at the same time, Horford or Portis, same exact position, $300 different.
Portis probably.
Portis. It's a more comfortable spot because Boston still could beat San Antonio by 30 tonight.
They very much could. So, but Pritchard for sure. I think now the value play we're going to lock in. It would not shock me to see Sam Hauser start and Horford start in place of Porzingis and Derek White. But we'll see if Pritchard starts. I mean, all systems go on that one. We just haven't seen that be the case yet here. I forget where we even were. I think we're on small forward.
Value shooting guard. Value shooting guard.
Okay.
We had last talk Dante DiVincenzo.
Sure. Shooter we've discussed. Alec Burks here at $5,400. Somebody that just popped off the other day. If you think Detroit's going to have any chance of hanging in this one, it's going to probably include Alec Burks making some buckets. Malik Beasley has been really good lately. Now there's no Giannis. I mean, I know you just ran through all the fantasy point per minute bumps or not, but he's $5,100 and in the rotation for them. Could see some sort of increase. Sam Merrill's 46. Gary Trent, we've talked about 43, and Pritchard has that dual positional eligibility at 4K as well.
Yeah, I think naturally gravitating to Pritchard makes the most sense. Sam Merrill could obviously come into play if and when we get the Karis LeVert news. And I don't think the Giannis news will have any impact on that, but Merrill could be another shooting guard that opens up here as well.
Small forward, as we go our way over here again, some dual positional eligible players, LeBron and Tatum. Tatum's obviously a great price. I mean, we've seen him put up some big numbers in games. They blew out Houston. He had 50 fantasy points in 30 minutes, right? He's certainly capable of taking over a game here. No Porzingis, no Derek White tonight. Do you like LeBron at 97? Did you play that?
It's fine. I mean, he obviously has a ceiling. It's just, what are you prioritize? Are you not playing Dame because you're playing LeBron? Is that a contrarian pivot? Then fine. Or are you not playing Donovan Mitchell if you're pling LeBron? Like
I'm eager to see the next updates here because I got to know how many people are playing Lillard.
I know. I would assume he's the highest owned play of the slate, or one of them. I would say
latest update, we'll get ours updated here shortly. Latest update, I'm looking at Peyton Pritchard now, 54% of the field getting to Peyton Pritchard here. Lillard though still not really popping. 13% Dame Lillard here.
That's great news.
Middleton's 4%. That's after the news. Bobby Poe 9%. So no one's really playing that side. Brook Lopez is up to 15%.
I guess that's the interesting one. Because he hasn't been bad from a fantasy point per minute, but he's clearly fourth still on the totem pole in terms of fantasy production. Like the Portis thing I could see because I still expect him to come off the bench. That's just what they've done. They like bringing Bobby Portis off the bench.
Which could
So
be good because then he probably fades Jared Allen,
fades the GOAT Jared Allen, who had a 30 bomb against them not too long ago. The Lillard ownership, like that's just one of those things where obviously Cleveland's a good defensive team and they're slow offensively, but like we're taking Portland Dame and inserting him into the Milwaukee offense that's playing at a top 5 pace, right? Like they play fast. They have an efficient offense. Yeah. And now it's his offense. Like there's no Giannis to do any, like now it's him and Middleton bringing the ball up instead of like 3 steps from one side of the other floor to Giannis where Dame doesn't touch the ball, right? So
yeah. You can get Mitchell and Dame tonight. Mitchell's 13%, Dame was 9%. So
it's dude, that's comfortable because now you can play Pritchard, and now you can. There's obviously another Boston starter that's going to be available to us because we assume it's not Pritchard. It just isn't.
I assume it's Hauser. I would assume it's Hauser. But
we'll do a bet. I'm gonna go that it's Delano Banton. That's my guess. Delano Banton starts from the clouds. That's my guess. Okay. Delano
Banton. Small forwards outside of Tatum, LeBron here. You guys who discussed Ingram, Brown. You have Jimmy Buckets at $7,800 who came back, missed a whole bunch of time, played 40 minutes off the rip, gave you 31 actual, 46 fantasy points. He gets that Toronto matchup there. Middleton now $7,600 in that range with him. How are you prioritizing middle tier small forward?
I'm prioritizing it as Chris Middle tier. Okay. Tried that one. I tried it. It didn't hit, but we move on. Look, Butler's fine. It's just like there's games that he defers and doesn't take 16 free throws in a night. And he's like passing Jimmy. And he doesn't kill you on most nights, but 7,800 with no Giannis, I'd rather probably get to Middleton for $200 cheaper if you want to pivot to Jimmy for lower ownership. But no one's playing Middleton to begin with, so it's not like if that update doesn't change, it's not like people are getting to Middleton anyway. So I don't really know if there would be a necessary pivot there. Barrett, we've talked about. Bojan, if you think the game can stay close, he's obviously at the forefront of that. Hardaway, we've talked about. I don't think there's much else in the mid-tier of small forward. I think it's really just, do you want to play Middleton, Barrett, or Jimmy Butler, and Jaylen Brown in that mix as well?
Yep. Some value guys I looked at, Sadiq Bey, Murphy down here, Derek Jones is $5,300, Dylan Brooks is $4,800, and then we had Cam Whitmore down here at $4,500.
Yeah, I mean, some of those guys are intriguing. The Derek Jones thing is a little interesting because they started Maxi Kleber. I know Jones should start. It was interesting to see Kleber play power forward. So I guess now they just have like a plethora of guys who could play power forward. Jones, they can play him at small forward too with Josh Green out. But he a little uncertain how the front court of Dallas ends up being on a night-to-night basis when they're healthy. So I'd like to see how that plays out. Whitmore in the rotation. It's just if this game gets out of hand, he plays. If he scores, he plays. Like, we just saw Udoka not afraid to stay with Whitmore if he's playing well. Only other thing I'd mention, Okeke might start, might not. We don't have any idea. I mentioned at the top of the show, Jamal Mosley talked about fluidity in the starting lineup. Have to assume that's Chuma Okeke's role being in question. And then Sam Hauser, if he starts, he's 39. This is like a more comfortable spot. I will say, he just hasn't been great from a fantasy point perspective, even when he's been on the floor. So I'm still a little hesitant to get to Hauser. If he ends up starting and is super chalk, TBD if I'm gonna pull the trigger.
Sure.
I'm not the biggest Sam Hauser fan in general. But
he's never really been good when starting. So, and he's
Easy.
obviously fallen off a little bit just in general,
Yep.
as it is lately. But, he could be a 3,900 guy getting 34
I
minutes.
know.
So,
I know.
something to look at. Something to look at. Power forward here. Obviously, Giannis is now out, so that changes a lot because you kind of skipped down. Well, Banchero is cover of tonight's show, live stream here. We're high on him tonight against Atlanta.
Dude, his some of these out. He's had 12 potential assists per game in January, which is kind of crazy because half these games hasn't ended in any significant numbers. But if Orlando just made some shots on Banchero passes, I mean, we could be looking at just 50 bomb after 50 bomb after 50 bomb. Obviously, an elite spot offensively for Paolo. For him to get his offense going a little more, it's been a struggle the last few games. Not the best matchups. 3 road games against the Knicks, the Thunder, and the Heat, and then Minnesota the game before that. Not the best, but we didn't see this game too long ago when Paolo had 35, 10, 4, 1, and 3 steals for 64 fantasy points. He's now averaging 48 against them in 2 games. So, yeah, love Paolo. They're banged up. No Franz Wagner. It's obviously, just kind of like the Paolo show, and then everyone else falls into place. So, definitely good getting to Banchero in any and all formats tonight.
Sure. Our mid-tier range down here, guys we talk about being mispriced. I mean, Towns being $7,700, Zion being $7,600, Jalen Johnson being $7,300 were all players that we were talking about last night.
Yeah, I'm good with getting to any of them. It's a really good spot for Zion. He's been really good offensively lately. 30 back-to-back 30-point games, 27 plus in 3 of his last 5. He's really found his footing as the go-to offensive player for New Orleans. So definitely interested in Zion sub 8K. It's just the peripheral stats that we always have to worry about with Zion.
Per usual.
Per usual, yeah.
How this man manages to play 32 minutes and only get 1 rebound is beyond me. But
dude, and he plays only near the rim. It just doesn't whatever. Karl-Anthony Towns a little less appealing with Anthony Edwards back, but it is still obviously an elite spot overall.
Yep.
And the price is elite. And then you mentioned Jalen Johnson. That's my guy. Crazy ceiling. Good play. Not the best matchup. Big time pace down spot, but still 14 potential rebounds per game in the month of January, which is more than Capella.
Crazy ups and downs, 2 games and 7 assists, double-digit rebounds, a 6 steal game thrown in the mix. So tournament play for sure. Guy has a pretty good ceiling there. Moving our way down, Jabari's at 6K. Bobby Portis, as we talked about, $5,800 here. Al Horford obviously now in the mix at $5,500. Thoughts on the value power forwards?
Yeah, it's hard to, I would say, prioritize anyone over Portis and Horford at this tier for me. Portis well over 1.1 fantasy points per minute without Giannis this year. Horford 0.99 fantasy points per minute without White and Porzingis. So fantasy point per minute, if Horford is in a competitive game, plays 35 minutes, wouldn't shock me to see over 30 fantasy points, which obviously upsurps value. The only problem is Al Horford is the first one off the floor if this game is not competitive. He's playing 24 minutes if this game is 20 something at half or whatever it is. So
Jalen Brunson on track to play tonight. So
not necessarily surprising.
No.
He's a dog.
Downgrades a little bit for Vincenzo, and obviously your big bride, you can't play him now. So
no.
Could play Jalen Brunson though if you wanted to against Houston. Certainly could.
Josh Hart also on track to play.
Okay, even better. And by better I mean worse. Would have been nice to have somebody out for the Knicks here this evening there.
Yep.
All right, we worked our way down. What are we doing with Jonathan Isaac?
I mean, I feel like
we didn't talk Joe Ingles either, but what are we doing with the Magic plays here? Ownership is still there even after the updates.
I was gonna say I feel like it's gonna go away.
It didn't.
But I know it's annoying.
Ingles is 28%, Isaac is 26%. It's obviously not 40% anymore, but they're still the third and fifth highest rostered players on the slate.
I feel like I'm gonna avoid it.
Okay.
And if I lose because Jonathan Isaac and Joe Ingles have 24 fantasy points tonight,
What if
then,
he's starting?
I mean, if he's starting, that's a different story. I still don't think there's going to be like much of an extension in minutes, just given what Jonathan Isaac does every time he plays an
One
extension of
game this
minutes.
year, he played 20 minutes, and in that game, he went for 35 fantasy.
Yeah, like look, we're very like if that happens, we're we're obviously at the forefront of excitement, but like it's just Jonathan Isaac playing 20 minutes is so highly unlikely. I just don't think that ownership is like okay, Joe Ingles is going to clearly be in the rotation, play around 20 minutes, right? He has had two very opposite ends of the spectrum. 30 fantasy points, 12 fantasy points.
Yeah.
He is a good shooter. He is good passer. He's a good passer. That was not good talking. But like he's also not someone who like has the ball a lot. Like he's someone who you find in the offense spotting up. So like you get the Knicks games a lot. It's obviously a great spot. Jonathan Isaac isn't going to play more than 16 minutes. Like I just don't believe he's playing more than 60 minutes.
I agree with you. Des, we're not really sure what the initial thought here was that there was the only value being touted, like Primus saying here. But even after, and this isn't, this is looking at some other place sites across the industry. Maybe the algos couldn't like fully remove, the ownership leans towards those guys, but they're cheap, right? $3,400, $3,500. That's why people were getting to John Isaac here. But obviously, we like Pritchard a little bit more. But Pritchard is $1,000 more expensive than those guys. So people are just straight up going stars, scrubs, and playing Isaac and Ingles. Very low, like single-digit point floors. Obviously, there's some ceiling with both, but one of 20 lineups. So what I find myself playing Isaac tonight. And obviously, that's below the field. The field's playing, 3 out of every 10 or something.
I'm way below. I'd be way below the field. I'm single entering, but I'd be way below.
Center here, AD at 10K, Bam at 9K. Both of them are perfectly fine. Davis obviously in a fantastic spot against Dallas here. If you wanted to find yourself getting to him. I like Jared Allen a lot more now. I liked him anyways. Like him a lot more. I know Brook Lopez can be a shot blocking monster, but Allen obviously had no problem in that last game, and just removing Giannis from the equation always makes front court matchups a little bit better here. $8,100. Şengün is $79. Gets the Knicks and Hartenstein. Şengün on FanDuel was over 9K, so he's much cheaper play on DraftKings tonight.
Yeah, I feel like this price was kind of silly for Allen and Şengün. Like those were the two names I found myself going to at center all day, just based on price. Like Şengün, even in blowouts, has just constantly been a 40 fantasy point guy. And with no Tara Eason, there's really just no like backup center. Like they could play Jeff Green if they wanted to go small, or just play Jabari Smith at the center. But like with Hartenstein, who by the way leads the NBA in potential rebounds per game, over 20, like Şengün's just going to be on the floor. Like Hartenstein's always near the rim. Şengün's always near the rim. Şengün's like one of my favorite plays of the day in the mid tier. That really hasn't changed. The only thing that really changed on the Şengün front is like, okay, do I prioritize Şengün 79 or someone like Middleton in the mid tier, or like Dame is a similar price point? Like, how do I, approach this mid tier? I think Şengün is as safe as any mid tier play there is, just given the minutes, given the fantasy production, given how he's used as the hub and the offense runs through him. So, Allen and Şengün for me are two fantastic center plays here.
After I got through them, I didn't really care for much. I mean, Hartenstein 7K. I know you mentioned the rebounding there. I don't think it's a great spot for Jalen Duran. I had some interest in Capella. I think Lopez certainly merits some looks now as well. Bobby Poe with the dual positional eligibility, Horford. But there wasn't a ton of the mid tier that I found myself really getting a lot of exposure to. I did think that there were some guys in the value tier that you could take a look at. Obviously, Jonte Porter, if he starts, is 43. Larry Nance continues to sort of get his minutes run and be productive when on the floor. They're just splitting time with him and Valanciunas again. Barlow is someone we keep talking about as well. I know Mamu got some run the other day, but still 17 minutes, 16 fantasy points. He plays and splits time with Wemby there. And if that game gets a blowout, maybe he gets some additional run. And then, of course, if you want to just throw a tournament dart throw, like maybe Boucher gets some extra minutes tonight.
Who ranked Toronto centers if you had to?
It's probably Jonte, Boucher, and Thad if I had to pick them. Assuming Jonte starts. Whoever starts is one.
What is the Toronto ownership for centers?
Probably nobody.
Thad 8%, Jonte 3%, Boucher less than 1%.
Yeah, but that would all change depending on what the starting lineup looks like. So
yeah, center is a position where you can just, thankfully, you can use obviously Şengün or Allen, but also that I would, if I'm not using one of those guys, I'd probably just use Portis or Horford if I'm playing centers.
Would Zinger out Wemby may eat. He may. I mean, he can do that against really anybody. We saw him, go up against the Suns and have no problems. Did well against Giannis, so he can really do whatever he wants against anybody. Obviously, we consider Al Horford to be a pretty good defensive center. He's held his own against Embiid and Giannis in the past, but Wemby is a different animal. Guy had 0 points and 3 rebounds at halftime the other day and finished with 26 and 13. So anything is possible, as Kevin Garnett once said to us here. I'll build a lineup. I guess we're going to start with Pritchard here.
Yep. So recent update has just Pritchard and Sam Hauser just like
way above everybody.
2x the field. Yeah. Yep. The Magic guy's down to 20%. So they're slowly going away, which I think makes sense. Like, especially if Hauser does start and he does play 30 minutes. Like I'd rather play 30 minutes of Sam Hauser in that instance, because we just have no idea what Ingles or Isaac's ceiling in minutes can really be. And I don't think it's much more than 20 for either
guy. Okay. All right, so Pritchard there. Yeah, Dame and Mitchell, I guess.
Dame's ownership is also coming up, which, again, not something that we should be surprised by in any capacity. He's at about 17% now.
Okay. Mitchell, Pritchard, Lillard. What's your next guy out here?
I mean, do you want to play Hauser?
Not really. Do I have to?
Portis at center.
Portis, sure. Go to Portis a power forward and go. You said you like Şengün here.
I just don't know if we're going to be able to do it with Donovan Mitchell, because then we're definitely playing. Then you're forcing yourself to play Sam Hauser, and I don't know if you want.
Okay.
I want to play. I do like playing the idea of playing Şengün. I'm just saying to you that I think that if you plug Şengün into this lineup right now, oh no, please stop. Please stop.
All right, so Portis at center then.
Yeah, Portis at center.
Okay, you like Portis over Brook Lopez? Just final answer there.
Yeah, I think Portis has a higher ceiling.
Okay. Small forward then. We were. Let's see. Where did we want to go here?
Sam Hauser.
All right, you're the one calling for it, so we'll put him in. 6K, power forward, and utility.
Oh man. Also on the Hauser front, like the likelihood of him getting extended makes a lot of sense to me.
Sure.
I also agree with Prime's comment here on the Raptor front. My favorite 2 Raptors today, if I had to pick, and I don't know if you feel the same way, John. I know you have Scotty Barnes in the playbook, a little teaser there. You can go to fantasyalarm.com and check that out. John has all the goods for today's main slate.
Barnes is up, Barrett, and quickly the whole crew is basically in the grid. So
I like my top 2 would be Schroeder and Barrett would probably be the top 2. Barrett obviously makes our lineup easier. Schroeder is the exact price I think we need for this lineup construction.
$5,300 forward here. Could go Derek Jones, Dylan Brooks.
What if you yeah.
And it's not. I mean, we could go down from Jalen Johnson to RJ Barrett.
I wouldn't be opposed, but I don't know. I don't know if that puts us anywhere that we even want to be.
6K power forward Jabari Sadiq. I don't mind Sadiq there.
Yeah, I know you're a Sadiq guy.
And Al Horford's here as well if you wanted to give that a run.
Give it a three pack of Celtics with no Tate, with none of the Jays.
Not great. I don't really care for that, honestly.
None of the Jays, not even Drew.
I don't even like Sam Howell here, but he helps us get where we're going. So
and I mean, you said it. Like, he started in the past without this iteration of the Celtics being in, and he played 37 minutes. So.
He did. Played a lot of minutes the last times they were missing Porzingis and, well, I guess in that case, they're missing Horford and White. So just an example lineup for everybody here tonight. Mitchell, Pritchard, Hauser, Bay, Portis, Lillard, Barrett, and Schroeder. More news to come. Again, roster locked at 7 p.m. Eastern time for Minnesota to Detroit, but still plenty of other updates, including the Luka Doncic news to come down the pipeline. So stay by your computers, by your phones, have notifications turned on. Get in the Fantasy Alarm Discord if you haven't done so already. Become a member of the Fantasy Alarm family. Get premium Discord access. You can scan the QR code there. Go to fantasyalarm.com/win. The annual subscription is 40% off the month-to-month price there. So get a big old discount if you sign up for a year. Get access to all of our premium content, not just the NBA, but NHL, MMA, PGA, MLB, NFL, you name it. If it's behind the paywall, you get it as a member of the Fantasy Alarm All-Pro team here. So join us, win with us. We'll be back tomorrow. Everybody, good luck tonight, and we will catch you all later.